sunsets. Welcome back to Pillow Talk Mamas. I'm Amari.
I'm Troy.
We hope you enjoy this episode. We have a special little treat for you guys for Friday the 13th. Woo-hoo. Now let's get started. So as you guys can see, we have a new set for Pillow Talk Mamas. We actually have pillows now. So we are going to get started with our paranormal stories.
So, my first story is pretty interesting, and I'm excited to read it.
Okay.
I hope you enjoy it. It's a little spooky. This happened at my grandparents when I was like 15 or so.
Sorry.
I was visiting for just a week during spring break. My grandparents had just moved into a new house for their retirement, so it was my first time visiting. Whenever I would visit my grandparents, their home always felt cozy and inviting, but this house I was not a fan of. It wasn't like a crazy old house with spooky elements, it was just different. Maybe something I wasn't used to. Anyways, when it was my first night there, I slept in the guest room, which was essentially just a spare room that the grandkids could sleep in while they were over. I was the only one visiting, so I had the room to myself. By 10, the whole house was quiet except for the living room TV where my granddad had fallen asleep and the sound of the HVAC humming. I was turning over to get more comfortable when I heard creaking, like someone was walking around on a wooden floor. It wasn't loud or heavy steps, just the sounds of creaking floor. It freaked me out a little, again, and it was a new environment for me, so I thought maybe it was just the house sounds and I didn't worry about it too much. Suddenly, I felt a weight at the end of my bed as if someone had sat down. The room was almost completely black except for the street lights that came through the curtains. All I can do was wait and shut my eyes and put my head under the covers. I know it was childish to think that would protect me, but I didn't know what else to do. I started saying a prayer, hoping for some spiritual protection. By the time I said amen, the weight of the bed shifted, and it was all gone and over. I remember sighing, and I was glad that it was over, but then the creaking noise happened again. It lasted for a few seconds, and then stopped with the sound of the doorknob jiggling. I popped up out of bed, ready to make a run for it, when my granddad opened the door to let me know he was getting ready to head to the room for bed. I was so happy to see his face. I knew I couldn't sleep or stay in the room any longer, so I asked if I could watch TV in the living room, and that's where I slept for the rest of the trip. When I asked my cousins about if they had any experiences, they said that they had little ones as well. So, whenever us kids would visit for the summer, we would always go in pairs and made sure we never visited alone.
All right. First of all, you're Mary Poppins, because I can see your paper. I'm like, there's no way there's that much on that paper. It looks so short to me.
There's a lot of information. It's in there.
Okay, so quick, maybe related short story?
Sure.
When I was living in Charlotte, this is when I had my cat. I was laying in bed. It was time for me to get up, but it was one of those like, I'm just going to lay here for a little bit longer type moments. And I had pulled just my sheet, like not a thick blanket, over my head. So I thought that my cat got into my room and was like, what do they call it? Making biscuits on my back or like around my head. I was like, Raja, cut it out. And she would not stop. So I flicked the blankets from over my head. She was not in my room.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody was in my room. And I swear somebody was touching me. I was like, I don't know what that was. It was super creepy. Obviously never figured it out. And it never happened again.
That's how it always happens. It happens suddenly and then it never happens again. You never get any answers.
I don't want it to happen again.
I mean, yeah, true.
It's really freaky. So my first one, I'd say my house is pretty spooky, nothing evil. But whatever it is in the house, they particularly like effing with my longtime friend, Jer Bear. Jer Bear stayed with me and my family when we were both on breaks from college. He'd hear and see things. Sometimes we'd both witness the same thing. He got used to it. This one incident about 2 summers ago, though, still boggles our minds. Jer Bear had just bought some great weed from our sketchy manager and was dying to get into it. First of all, your manager. Hilarious. Um, None of our friends smoke, so he didn't want to ask to use their places. I told him he could use mine, but it had to be when no one was home and had to be in the backyard. Mm-hmm. This day comes, mother and brother are at work, and sister was too sick to drop by. Jer Bear gets his stuff, I get some munchies to keep him company, and we head to the backyard. The sun was starting to set, the sky was pretty, and the weather felt nice. Jer Bear gets his fill, and the mosquitoes start coming out, so we head inside. Except the door won't open.
Oh.
No big deal. Sometimes the door gets off its tracks. Sliding glass door.
Okay.
I try to fix it, but it seems fine in place. We call my mom, thinking she might have come home early and locked the door without realizing we were out there. Well, I'd forgotten that she'd left earlier that morning for a conference in another city.
Oh.
Sweet.
Okay.
So we assume the same about my brother. We call his cell with no answer. He calls back from the store's phone. He gets off soon. Okay. Only we saw someone that looked like him shuffling across the living room to the kitchen shortly before calling him. Jer Bear doesn't say it, but I know what he's thinking. As a last measure, I FaceTime my sister to see if she's in the house. Nope, still on her couch, dying from a cold or hangover, I can't remember. This eliminates anyone that has entry into our house at any given time. Jer Bear gets paranoid, so I call my brother again to let him know what's up. We kept our eyes glued to the living room to see if whatever walked around my house would again. Spoiler alert, didn't happen. Like you said. Brother gets home and notes that the door is locked both ways. The lock by the handle and the bolt on the ground. That's what troubled me. The lock by the handle could have maybe accidentally latched down and locked us out. But the bolt is really hard to lock in place. As I mentioned earlier, loads of other things have happened in my house, but this was interactive in a way we just didn't see or hear something. It kept us from getting back into my house. Not the scariest incident, but probably the most spooky.
No, it's definitely paranormal. Like, forget that. Like,
right.
Nobody came home and then you're telling me you're locked out of your house.
Yeah.
No.
F that. Not cool.
All right, here's another one. One night I was in my bed watching TV. As I was laying there, I saw something black move swiftly out the corner of my eye. That's how it always starts. Right. I didn't think too much of it and assumed it was an eye floater. I focused back on the TV, which wasn't loud at all, when I suddenly heard rustling in my closet. It freaked me out because my cat was at the foot of my bed, so I couldn't imagine that or what could be making that noise, and was too freaked out to check, but grabbed my phone to use the flashlight and looked anyways. When I looked, nothing was there, so I assumed it was maybe a mouse or something, which is not much better, but I can handle that. I get back in bed and started to doze off, but suddenly the light in my closet turned on. Like, what the actual fudge is going on? I live alone, so I knew I wasn't being pranked. At this point, my cat is hissing at the corner of my room. This one spot was relatively dark due to the shadowing from the TV, but it seemed extra dark. At this point, I grabbed my cat and ran to the living room, turned on every light only to notice that my kitchen cabinets were open. I said, fuck it, grabbed my cat, keys, phone, and slippers, and drove to my parents' house. When I came back the next day, during daylight of course, everything seemed normal other than the chaos that was left behind. My dad was with me and we went over the entire apartment and didn't find anything weird. It was the first and last time I've ever experienced it, and it took months to feel safe again, but the lease was up anyways and I moved out as soon as I could.
Buy yourself out of your lease.
It's always the pets that kind of senses things and you're like, it's not good when they start sensing stuff.
I don't know if Raja sent something, but one day, again, this is the one and only time she ever did it. She was looking at something under my bed, and I was like, what are you looking at? I kept calling her, talking to her. She wasn't hissing, but she was like crouched down and eyes like pupils completely dilated. I was like, something is under there. I looked under the bed. I didn't see anything. So I was like, Roger, what's going on? I go to pick her up, and midair, she's like, I don't know if I still have it, but yeah, I have like a 3.5-inch scar on my arm because when she started doing all of that midair, I'm like, I don't want to drop her, forgetting that cats land on their feet.
Yeah, they're good.
All of her claws were out, so yeah, I don't know what was under there, but I caught it and I was like, yeah, if I see her like that again, I'm not going to touch her because something was something.
She was like doing her thing and was minding her business. Leave her alone.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter now.
Don't be weird about it. Stop.
So, I am an amateur ghost hunter, so I have a handful. One that I find particularly spooky occurred at a cemetery with my boyfriend and a friend. Boyfriend doesn't believe in ghosts. Other friend believes almost too much. I have a spirit box which scans through radio frequencies at a set rate. The theory is that spirits can communicate via radio. It ties into electromagnetism, another key principle in ghost hunting. I can always get into depth in explaining how things work if anyone asks questions. My friend knew of a cemetery near her house, so we decided to go check it out. I brought the spirit box with an EMF meter, measures the changes in surrounding electromagnetic field, as well as a camera, flashlights, and walkie-talkies. We arrived at the cemetery, and I noticed that the EMF meter was starting to pick up changes in the magnetic surroundings. This isn't out of the ordinary. The earth and nearby streets have magnetic fields that would affect the readings. We turned on the spirit box. I pointed the flashlight to the grave and asked, "Who is buried here?" A voice came through the spirit box, giving the full name on the headstone. We repeated this 11 more times. 12 names were given, each in a different voice. The EMF meter started having bigger spikes than I'd ever seen. I think it maxed at 15. Forget what unit of measure, but this was a big deal as it indicated high energy spirit activity. Granted, it was a cemetery. My skeptic boyfriend was terrified and the other friend was ecstatic. I was without reaction. I'm desensitized to events like this. So, when I was younger, EMFs and things like that, ghost hunting would have interested me. But first of all, why are you at a cemetery? Didn't work. Like, why would you go to, I mean, I guess some people look at it differently and they're not as freaked out by it. But I feel like my spirit is a little too sensitive for that kind of stuff. Like, I'm going to pick something up and go home and pray nonstop for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Hoping that stuff doesn't follow you home.
Right. You mentioned that, I think, too. Was it Random Facts? I forget why. But it was something about, like, Isla de Muñecas. Like, not to go because you won't bring them back home. I think that was it.
I used to have serious sleep paralysis episodes. I know there's a scientific explanation. I just think it's total bullshit. I could absolutely feel something evil on my chest, inches away from my face. I knew that if I opened my eyes, I would see something deeply horrifying. I never opened my eyes. It was the presence that felt like it hated me or more than anything and wanted me to suffer before it killed me. Thankfully, when I moved out of the house, the episodes immediately stopped. Short and sweet, to the point. It was evil.
I don't know about that one.
Now, these are specifically, like, from Reddit of, like, what was the moment that made you believe in the paranormal or in ghosts. So that's why it was so short and sweet. But I was like, yeah, this is a good one to pull.
Yeah. So, condensation. Spookiest thing that has ever happened to me is back when I was 16, me and my friend was hanging. We're hanging, playing video games. If I read this weird, it's because that's how they wrote it. I'm trying my best.
No, I get it.
Mom came back, had a little too much to drink, and went to bed. Whatever. Seems normal. So here's why ish started getting weird. I got a message from my mom, and it said, "Hurry, something bad is going to happen." Like spaces in between. I'm like, weird. Whatever though. Put my phone back down. I get another message about 2 minutes later. "Hurry, gun under pillow. A." So this time a red flag appeared. I don't know why. It took the second one. And I'm like, okay, let's go check this out. Went into the room, looked under the pillow, and bam, gun locked and loaded. Well, I'm like, that's weird. Took the gun with me, unloaded it, and took it apart. About 5 minutes later, get another message saying, "You might have won the battle, but the war isn't over. Here, life is mine." I think they meant her. Her life is mine tonight.
Oh.
So you notice I read that one normal. There's no spaces.
Right.
There's no A at the end. By this point, I'm just like, what the F is happening? Go back to my mom's room, wake her up, ask her why she's being weird and scary, doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I thought, I'll effing hide your phone under your bed and just be safe. I'll take it, the board. I don't know what they meant there. They did something with the phone. So she'll have no idea. But surely the F enough get another message saying necklace, choking, hurry, A. Go in there, my mom has her rosary wrapped around her and the Christ pulled off, squeezing it in her left hand so hard it was bleeding. So I woke her up and tried to explain what happened, but she was still drunk, so it didn't make a difference.
Oh, boy.
I was curious about her phone, so I checked it, and lo and behold, it's still there. Nothing happened. Well, I grabbed her phone and tried to look at the messages, but they weren't there. Like, none of them were on her phone. Fast forwarding the next day, explaining everything to my mom and showed her the messages, and she starts crying. So the messages that ended with A, my mom thinks it was from her firstborn that died since her name was Amethyst.
Oh.
Freaky-ish, though. Got plenty of stories. For whatever reason, paranormal-ish loves me.
It's like beyond paranormal. It's like, what is really going on? Like, that
Right.
is TV worthy right there.
Like, your unborn daughter, allegedly, your unborn daughter saved your life because the second or third text message was like, okay, you won the battle, but not the war. Like, I'm going to keep coming for her.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting warnings that are literally saving your mom's life. No.
And he's saying he had more experience.
Move. Take none of your stuff with you.
At this point, anything could be attached to anything.
Right.
Oh, man, that's creepy.
Very.
Okay. My next one. Used to seeing moving shadows in the upstairs of my old house. We're talking 25 years ago now. It was always out of the corner of my eye. I would think maybe the light flickered a little bit or it was a trick of the eye, some peripheral thing, etc. Used to see it often and I wouldn't think too much of it. One evening a friend and I are hanging out. I'm watching TV directly in front of me. He's a few feet away, sitting on the floor reading a magazine. Diagonal from us, I catch a glimpse of a shadow passing by the doorway in the small hallway between rooms. Nothing new. He puts down the magazine, stares at the doorway for a second and says, "What the fuck was that?" That's when I'm like, wait, you saw that too? Up until that point, no one else has. Freaked him out more than me. He'll bring it up every few years or so. So that's validation. If you're like, I think I might be a little bit crazy, but I'm not going to pay no mind to it. And then somebody's like, did you see that? Like, you saw it too?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Glad. And they're like, what do you mean? Okay, cool.
Right.
That's hilarious.
That would be me. I get floaties all the time. And I look around, I'm like, okay, nobody's reacting, so
You're all good.
it was a floaty. But if I look up and somebody else is like, we need to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, of course, I can see that through there. Lights turning off and on, items flying off shelves, counters. One time I was home at night by myself. I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. I looked over and the bottom half of my scarf that I draped over the top of my bathroom door was suspended at a 20-degree angle, including the tassels in midair. At this point, so many things were happening in my apartment, including physical welts down my back. First of all, no ma'am, that I was terrified to be in it. I ended up getting dressed and going outside the building before I broke down crying and called my grandma to come pick me up. A different time, my friend and I were outside the building smoking when we heard what sounded like someone thrashing my apartment. I'm talking chairs being smashed into walls, shelves being tipped over. I was the only person living in the building at the time. We raced upstairs to catch whoever it was, but not a single thing was moved in my apartment, and all the other units were locked. I checked. I never saw a ghost, apparition, shadow, etc. When we first moved in, everybody hated coming into our building. They said it felt off. My ex and I never felt that way at first and thought everyone was exaggerating. By the time I moved, I wouldn't speak about ghosts or watch anything remotely paranormal in my apartment. Eventually, I watched the paranormal activities at a friend's and cannot describe the chill I felt. Similar things were happening in my own home. Haven't experienced anything like it since I moved. So, I was going to say I have questions, but I have question. Why are you living in a building by yourself?
Yeah, that's a little sketchy in itself.
Like, that's not off to you? Even in brand new units, like, people, flood into those, and they'll start taking, what do you call it, security deposits before they even release everything. Why are you living anywhere alone?
Yeah, no, that's already sketchy in itself. It's like, there's a reason why people aren't living there.
Right. One weekend, I was at my dad's house. He'd come up to the upstairs bathroom to get a shave and heard footsteps in my stepsister's room. I thought it was him walking around initially, so I got up to find him standing at her closed door. He looks back at me and whispers, "You hear that too, right?" I nodded, and he opened the door slowly. My stepsister was asleep and never had been awake, apparently. There was no way she could have crossed the room, gotten in bed, and pretended to be that convincingly asleep in the 2 seconds it took my dad to open the door. He went and checked her TV, which had never been on. She had an older one that got warm when it was on.
That's what I was thinking.
The radio hadn't been on either. Figured maybe it was the beat of a song or something. After that, we heard footsteps a bunch of times, usually very early in the morning. Some of the footsteps were so heavy they'd shake the ceiling fan in the dining room, directly under her bedroom. And they'd woken her up a few times as well. Whenever I'd shower at my dad's, I always felt like someone was standing behind me. Eventually, I got so stressed and paranoid that I refused to shower at the house or even go into the upstairs bathroom. My dad asked me one day, "Do you ever feel like someone is in the shower with you when you're here?" After months of me feeling that way and never mentioning it to anyone.
Wow. So he was sensitive. That makes me feel better for her, knowing that she's not alone in the experience. It's like, the situation sucks, but knowing that you're not the only one experiencing it, it's like, okay, cool.
I'm like, listen, everybody doesn't have money to just move because weird things are happening. Totally understandable. Call a priest. Like,
hey, they
get
charge
some holy
too.
water. It's cheaper than moving. Well, I don't know why I said that. I don't know how much.
I was like, oh, you know?
Exorcisms cost. I have no idea. But there's no way I couldn't, like, even if somebody was like, get some holy water, I'd be like, I don't know where to get holy water. Like, get some water, some filtered water, say prayers over it for like a week and be like, okay, it's good. And just splash it everywhere in the house. Yeah. Like, burn sage, Palo Santo. Like, there's no way, if I can't move, I'm living in a house that's doing all that.
Yeah, no, that
can't do it.
Especially when multiple people are experiencing it. It's like, okay,
yeah,
this is facts. This is what's happening.
And also, don't touch me. I was gonna say I don't know you. Sometimes it's family members or whatever, so sometimes they do know them, but don't touch me. Like the welts down the back, and my whole blanket thing. I really wish I knew what that was about. I told my mom and she was like, stuck. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
Better you than me either. Better you than me.
I feel like something has happened to her like that before too, but I can't remember. Any other experiences I've had with like ghosts or spirits of any sort were like dreams of passed on family members. It was peaceful. It wasn't like a haunting or anything crazy. So I don't know about all these.
Definitely good ones though. Good read.
So hope you guys enjoyed. And like, comment, subscribe, share. Let us know what you think of our new setup.
Please do.
Because I love it. It's everything.
It's pretty comfortable.
That's what matters, right? We love it. But I do want to know what you guys think.